stay there.
You play to win the game.
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets.
Well, all right, everybody. What's happening? Yeah, hey, good smile there, Dom C. Welcome to the show. This is the Thursday thick of it. I'm GreenBean, and we're happy to have you with us. I will tell Dom and Gunny. So I did a speed test myself. I have 400 download, but my upload is 31. You see, you guys up there in metropolitan areas. I'm in I'll tell you what, in rural Virginia, 30 is sought after numbers over here.
You're flying. You're cooking. You're cooking with gas.
Nothing to sneeze at. Nothing to sneeze at right there.
That's right, man. So, well, that's right. So we're happy. I had to close down a bunch of stuff so we can have this show. But yep, here we are. GreenBean here. I'm with my two buddies. Dom and the great Gunny Gumby. Let me change the background. Dom, what's going on, man? You psyched up for tonight's show? What's cooking?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight's show. We got a guest. We haven't had a guest on since the three of us have been on there. So it's good, man. Today is an exciting day this week leading up to the combine. I love all the interviews. You know, I got I do my best, man. I got a good, nice inside source, if you will, that kind of lets me know what's happening with the visits and all that stuff. I actually just found out about one that I didn't know that my guy let me down on, so I'm gonna have to beat his ass. Colston Loveland officially met with the Jets today. That's their third tight end that they've met with formally at the combine.
So tight end love.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta love it, Tom. Are you how many?
That does not include Tyler Warren, which I haven't actually confirmed yet, but I'm sure they either have or will meet with him.
Yeah, they're going to meet with, I think, approximately 17 tight ends at the combine. That's what my source says, but my source is drunk and doesn't exist. So there he goes. He just says whatever he wants because it's coming out of my mouth, whatever I feel like saying. That's my source for the combine. Gunny, what's cooking, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, it's always great when we can go ahead and get, some of the Jets beat to go ahead and kind of answer some questions and kind of give us some inside information as to what's going on at One Jets Drive. So this is an exciting show. As always, pumped to be here and talking Jets with you guys, man. And as always, you guys in the chat, we appreciate y'all. You guys are why we do this. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Damn straight. So they were mentioning, the guest, but there was a time when, for years, a couple of years, almost every Thursday thick of it, I had a guest. It was like a long, long stretch. And then, you know what it was? I got so tired of asking. You know what I mean? I was like, I'll just hang out, and it became what it's become. So I'm excited too. Guys, we have ANTWAN STALEY, New York Jets beat. Coming to hang out with us for a little while. He's coming up, 8:45, Dom? Is that what we're looking at?
Correct.
So around 8:45, we'll welcome ANTWAN STALEY to the show and ask him some very specific questions. See if we can't get a little more intel than maybe we're seeing out there. Maybe he's got some secrets and some good juicy nuggets for us. That'll be fun. I want to remind everybody, for the last time this year on the Thursday thick of it, of the sponsor, BetUS. BetUS, this is it, guys. This is the final Thursday thick of it. It feels like forever because it almost has been. They've been hanging out with us since July. Wow. July to February. That's quite the stretch. Not quite as long as Manscaped was. Manscaped I had for a couple years, but BetUS is going to be sponsoring us for this last show. I will put their ad up right before ANTWAN comes on, but I wanted to just say hello and acknowledge their sponsorship. I have appreciated it. It's been a lot of fun. I've been, making wagers on the BetUS platform and all that jazz. So good times. Before we get into all, E-Boogie is checking out. We're going to start right with my buddy E-Boogie. And he comes out of the gate hot, Gunny. He's saying, trade Sauce, re-sign G-Dubs, and safety at 7. But then he does this. Question mark? So it's not me saying it.
Oh,
I'm just hey, that's Gunny, what do you think of this? This is three big boasts right here. You want trade Sauce, sign G-Dubs, and draft a safety at 7? How does that sound?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with no, yes, no. Listen,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So I think there was a lot of I don't want to say hyperbole, right? But a lot of I'm saying frustration with how the New York Jets season kind of panned out. A lot of us kind of looked at the step back that Sauce Gardner had, and apparently he's fallen off of a cliff in terms of his production. But if we're being honest with ourselves, he's still graded out as a top 5 cornerback in the NFL this past season. Now that's crazy. Take that into consideration. The fact that Sauce Gardner was a top 5 corner in the NFL last year is no longer good enough for some Jets fans, right? Like, he's got to go. He's washed. We got to trade him because, unfortunately, he gave us 2 all-pro seasons in back-to-back years where he was the number 1 or number 2 guy in the NFL. Listen, I think Sauce Gardner is an incredible football player. More so than just him being a football player, I love the fact that he loves being a New York Jet. I love the fact that he's been vocal about, listen, I was drafted here to change this culture, to create a winning organization, and I want to achieve that. I think that's a level of responsibility and accountability that we want from our players. Sauce, to me, is proving that he wants to be a leader on this defense, on this team, and he wants to be a Jet for life given the opportunity. So for me, I don't think you trade Sauce. I think Sauce is one of those guys. He's one of those pillars or foundational pillars on this roster. He's at a premium position, and he wants to be here, and the guy is pretty good. So I think I'd rather keep him, vice flip a coin on who could potentially replace him. Now Garrett Wilson, yeah, I'm 100% on board with that. Sign him. Rumor is that he's looking to get $30 million a year to be the wide receiver of the New York Jets. Pay that man. $30 million a year may sound like a lot, but I think that a lot of individuals don't realize that. I think Jamar Chase is going to reset the market. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think you're going to see a couple of guys reset the market here this next year or year after. If you can go ahead and get them at $30 million a pop, I think you're going to go ahead and look at this as a bargain in about 2 years. Garrett Wilson is a guy who's had 1,000-yard seasons each year that he's been here, and he really hasn't had top-tier quarterback play. He's also been the primary focus of defenses when it came to the passing game. I know some will tell you like he's an average cat. I disagree 100%. When you're the focal point of the offense in terms of the passing game and you're still able to go ahead and make things happen, I love what he brings to the table. I don't think we've even seen the ceiling of what Garrett Wilson brings to the table. I think the dog in him is going to shine through. And he came out saying he wants to be a Jet. He wants to stay here. You know what I'm saying? And apparently it got leaked that, he wants $30 million a year, which I actually think is a bargain in terms of what that wide receiver number is going to look like in the next couple of years. So if you get a chance to go ahead and get him locked in at that price point, you do it. You do it. I think with a average to good quarterback, you can see him being in that conversation as a top 10, top 5 wide receiver in the league in the future. So I think that would be a steal if we were able to keep him at that price.
Gunny, think about it this way, Gunny. The salary cap just went up $30 million, so Garrett Wilson is free.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you take Garrett Wilson for free?
I sure would. and that's how the numbers add up. That's free money. That's free right there.
That's right.
And then the last piece, what was the last part of the question? I forgot.
Oh, does save? Well, let's leave this one for Dom. You took a nice chunk of that. Cool. So, right. Dom, you could touch on the other ones quick, but Dom, I'm curious. Safety at 7 or what? You okay?
No, I'm not okay at safety at 7, but that's I'll get into that. I do want to touch on one thing with Sauce. I won't move into to Garrett too much. The number he's putting out is 30. The Jets are probably somewhere around 24. They'll meet in the middle. Everyone will be happy. That's just how these negotiations work. But I do want to touch on Sauce. Now listen, Sauce has been in the league 3 years. His first 2 years, he was All Pro. Is that the one? Not Pro Bowl is the one that's voted on. All Pro is the one that's not that's voted by the media, correct? All Pro is the big one. Yes.
Yeah. All Pro is the big one.
2 years as an All Pro in his first 2 seasons, and last year, which we all say was his down year. 50 tackles, 38 solo tackles, 1 interception, 9 passes deflected. Not up to the standard that I guess the high standard that was set year 1 and 2, but still pretty freaking good. Like, you can tell me, and I might not agree, but you can tell me that, listen, I don't value the cornerback position. I don't think cornerbacks should be paid $25-30 million. Okay, I can get with that. If that's your philosophy, if that's how defense is built. But you can't tell me that, because Sauce didn't make all pro in his age 23 season, third year in the league, after doing it at age 21 and 22, that you need to ship him off. I mean, especially now, we're just creating another hole. But I digress. Sauce, I think, is going to be just fine. And don't get it twisted. You have Aaron Glenn, who was a premier defensive back. You have Steve Wilkes, who was a defensive back. Both of them have coached defensive backs. They brought in Dre Bly as the cornerback coach. Like, this is a year where there's going to be a lot of love given to Sauce. He's going to be given an opportunity and all the support in the world to really blossom. So I'm confident in a Sauce rebound, if you will, if you consider last year a down year. But yeah, safety at 7 being too high for me. There's just not anybody. I think there's too much other talent, too much other meat on the bone to really consider safety at 7. Malachi Starks, I know who you're a big fan of, and he's a wonderful player. Probably arguably the best safety in the class. I don't know if you're going to see him, in the top 15, maybe around that 12, 13, 13, 14, like Miami and Indianapolis. That could probably be where he could start to go, and he could drop as low as Buffalo at 30, which would be really scary. But I just don't know if that's the avenue I would go with this other with so much other talent on the board.
Yeah, well, I will say, like, safety at 7. I do like Malachi Starks, but I struggle too. Like, look, safety is one of my favorite positions. And I feel like, it's been painful watching the Jets all but ignore it. Now, we brought in some free agents, and obviously we had to have somebody there, but I feel like it's just been a somewhat of an afterthought. I get it. Their focus was on the front four and the cornerbacks, and it is what it is. But I'm excited to see what we do at safety, and even for me, it's a little rich. Granted, if everybody's gone and you can't trade back, and you just got to grab a player at a position of need, it's in the conversation. But I'd probably go, especially if we don't sign Sherwood, with like maybe a Campbell or. Again, they're all going to be drafted high at that point. You know what I mean? But you can't move. You got to take somebody. You might as well get the best player at a position in the whole draft, on your board anyway, at a position of need. So who knows? Stranger things have happened, but I'd be surprised a little bit anyway. But so he checks back in, this E-Boogie character of ours over here, one of our greats. So who's your guys at this year's Combine? Now, interestingly enough, there was a statement made yesterday or today. Forget it. I just can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Rappaport, or that basically the general thought consensus out there is that you're going to get a similar player from like around 10 to 35. They're like the same. And we've been saying, Dom, you were saying this for a while now. That it's really like the blue chip is really, it's not quite as vast as a draft just as recently as last year. Last year, that top 15 was really something, and even up top, top 5, top 7, top 6, they were like really blue chip kind of prospects. You could genuinely get excited about the prospect of the opportunity of getting one of those guys. The idea that it's going to, like, from 10 or so all the way to 35 is kind of a similar tier. Number one, do you think that still holds water? And who are you looking at in this year's Combine?
Well, I mean, listen, I just literally, as you were talking, I just watched one of my favorites in the entire class. My number 7 overall player in the entire class, Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama, run a 4.5 40. He also had a vertical leap of 40 inches. So the athletic profile for him is ridiculous. Listen, 7 and an off-ball linebacker probably not in the cards, but you talked about the Combine guys. You're watching a bunch of guys today just tear the roof off of the place. Shamar Stewart, maybe a name you guys are familiar with, maybe not. A freak defensive end, weighed in Mobile at the Senior Bowl at 281 pounds, right? Just under 6'6", 281 pounds. Slimmed down to 267 pounds for the combine, and has a perfect 10 RAS score so far. The number one, right, the highest rated defensive end ever in all the time that RAS has been calculated or going. So
let's take a look. This is breaking information. Dom C just dropped it, and we're going to take a look at one of our faves. You've heard us talk about him on the 10 o'clock mock quite a few times now. This is Jihad Campbell's 40 right here, everybody. They said head turning, Dom. That's what they said. Head turning. Here we go.
Yeah.
One of our guys.
Here we go. We got out.
Look at that hair, baby.
Jihad Campbell. 4.5.
Blowing in the wind.
That's
4.5 at 239 pounds, slimmed down 6 pounds, in shape, with a 40-inch vertical. I mean, the athleticism is just evident, and he plays in that phone booth, in that tackle box, downhill, 6.2% missed tackle rate, which is phenomenal for college. He's a thumper. He's CJ Mosley with the athleticism of Quincy Williams. That's what he is.
Oh my God. And he thumps, which is what I like.
Mm-hmm.
Gunny, who's your guy? Do you have a guy you're most, maybe even a position group that you're really kind of keyed in on this year's combine for the drills?
Honestly, for me, it's going to be the tight end group. I'm really keen on watching the tight ends in terms of how that particular segment works out. And I get it, man. Listen, I've gotten to the point now, man, hanging out with guys like Dom and everything like that, where I look at the actual game tape as being the bread and butter of how these guys are going to do when pads are on. This has now become more of a dog and pony show for me. It's weird because I used to be infatuated with the combine. But again, when you start hanging out with guys like Dom and whatnot, you start looking at the 10,000 feet view of what makes an NFL football player. But I still want to kind of see how some of these guys react in terms of their agility. There's some guys I think would be beneficial to be on the Jets at the tight end room. Right now, the tight end room is pretty barren. I don't think. I mean, I don't know if Conklin's a guy that we're going to be keeping. I think Ruckert has proven that maybe he's not a dude that can actually play at the NFL level. So too many question marks, and it's a very important position. It's one of need. So for me, the tight end group, which I think is pretty deep, kind of seeing how those guys separate themselves in terms of their athleticism, their speed, their hands, their strength. I think it's going to be very important for me, in my opinion, is what I'm looking at. But other than that, man, like everybody else that I'm in love with, I'm just in love with based off of just watching the tape, and then of course getting feedback from other analysts and scouts. And Abdul Carter with the injury, I don't know if y'all are tracking that. Like, so Abdul Carter with the injury now is another one that I'm kind of tracking in the combine, because if somehow, some way that injury scares some individuals off and he was to drop to 7, I still
there's no way you could take him in the top 6. Absolutely freaking not.
100%. I think that it's too much of a risk. I think that if any GMs are watching this, I don't know why you would, but if you are, that foot injury might be a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's too rich for your blood. Let that man drop a little bit. Because if he was to drop, and I think at number 7, you have no choice. You got to run to the podium and go ahead and you get that kid. I think Abdul Carter is going to be a monster. Granted, he might be a little bit hampered with the injury. We don't know the extent of it. They're saying stuff about surgery not being. So now Abdul Carter has risen up on, like, let's just see what the combine looks like with him. What does he do? What does he not do? How does he interview and whatnot? So he's one that I'm really intrigued on. But other than that, it's definitely the tight end group to kind of see what kind of athletes that we can potentially get in the later rounds.
I'll tell you what. I like that. I am really interested this year to see what's going on with these defensive tackles in this particular combine. I'm going to be keyed in on that a little bit. I want to see record-breaking verticals from the defensive tackle down. That's what I want to see. I want to see guys jumping.
Well, you saw it. They did it today, man.
Yeah, well, I didn't check on it. So I want to keep track of that. It's been a long day, everybody. I only had like a half hour, 45 minutes before work, between work and this. Yeah. So, but yeah, baby, that's what I'm going to be zeroed in on. I like what Gunny said, the tight ends too. There's a nice crop I love when there are positions of need with us, and it's not like, kind of that one guy and a bunch of also rans. I like when there's a deep class at positions that you're hoping to bolster. Tight ends, defensive tackle being way up top. Dom, what would you say is another real strong, position group in this draft, if there is one?
The running back group. I mean,
Running back.
and whether or not we're going to mess around in the running back group, because some people will take the stance that that's the one room that's pretty solid as we stand here in February. But it's probably the deepest running back class in the last 10 or 15 years. There hasn't been one like this where you're going to get guys on day 3 that can come in and play. Not just like play a part, but come in and play. There's a ton of good running backs in this class.
Running back, Gunny. Are you interested in seeing them use one of our 8 picks for running back this year?
No, personally, I'm not. Listen, I think our running back room is one of the strengths, if not the only strength we currently have, or we actually have depth. If they grab a guy, am I going to be mad about it? No. But I think right now we got some studs in the running back room with a young guy in Braylon Allen, who I think could really pretty much kind of set the bar here if we were to move on from a guy like a Breece Hall in the next year or two. So I like our running back room. I think it's the only room where we have a lot, not only depth, but we also have talent across the board. So I'm cool with it. Let's save one of those picks for a position of need. But again, will I be upset if you go ahead and find a bit of a scat back to bring into the building? Because there are some talented running backs in this draft. I mean, it's actually a very deep running back class. So it wouldn't surprise me if a couple of those guys also shook free in terms of free agency. But yeah, in terms of like spending capital, if you got to do it, I'm not going to be mad, but I am very comfortable with the Jets running back room right now.
Yeah, I know, right? That's one of those things. Like we have needs. I mean, we have
Everywhere
needs,
else.
and then we have fucking straight up holes. It's like, let's use our capital to address some of those areas. I want to remind everybody we do have Antwan Staley, from the New York Jets beat, hopping on the show at about 8:45 tonight. So we'll have some fun there. Maybe see what we can learn, see if we get any new perspectives and such. We're excited about that. So again, that'll be around 8:45 or so. Big fella, Gunny, is saying Will Johnson at 7. Does the injury? We have an update on the injury. I haven't really checked. Is he going to be able to? Yeah, Dom, give me an update if you got.
So he's not doing anything but interviews at the combine. I mean, and realistically, he's one of probably 15 or 20 guys that have just bowed out of the combine. The combine is now becoming a luxury status. If you're any sort of good, or even guys that aren't even that good, not just the injured ones, but a lot of people are bowing out of competing. I think I had it up here, man. Hang on, I'm going to see. I know I posted it.
It's an interesting thing because look, you've heard cavemen like me say this many, many times, right? Like I'm always tickled by how drastic people's opinions change during the combine, right? From right before to right after. Somebody runs a slow 40 and he goes from, middle of the first to he's got a 3rd round grade on him. It's like really just, so it's one of those things where, I do believe the tape should be king, right?
The film is king.
Right.
And what somebody does, in sweat shorts and underwear at the combine shouldn't really change the tier that you kind of assess or you evaluate them at. Maybe bump them up or bump them down a couple spots. Like if you got 2 guys that are close, like, for instance, I'll use 2 guys as an example, Shamar Stewart and Mykel Williams, both defensive ends, both very big, both thought to be very athletic. I had literally the same exact grade on them. I had Shamar Stewart rated a little higher, in my overalls. But they literally had the same grade. I might sway a couple spots in my overall picks based on, the end results of the testing, but I'm not going to move them up a complete other tier or change their actual grade. Their valuation is their valuation. But yeah, getting back to the combine and Will Johnson in your question. So
Yeah, right.
Here are the
Well done.
guys. Good.
That
Here,
was good.
here are the guys who have declined from testing at the combine: Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Warren, Abdul Carter, and some of these are injury related. Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Warren, Abdul Carter, Will Johnson, Mikel Williams, Jalen Walker, Elijah Arroyo, Walter Nolan, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, Xavier Watts, Mike Green. I mean, these are guys these are tons of, and that's probably not even all of them, because the defensive linemen, only 18 of the first 40 ran the 40-yard dash. A lot of the guys chose to do the other drills, just not run the 40-yard dash. So it's not because it's becoming a more of hey, I could probably only do more harm than good kind of thing. But Will Johnson had a toe injury, had turf toe and plantar fasciitis, knocked him out this season. Probably not ready or back up to where he thinks he needs to be, which is probably why he's there just interviewing. And it's kind of maybe a smart decision, because he especially needs to make sure that he's 100% healthy, right? Because there are questions about his long speed. There's not questions about his skill set. I mean, I think he's so talented. He's the third-ranked player in my class based on his film in 23 and the limited film in 24. But, if there's questions on long speed, you better make sure that you're healthy before you do it. So he's going to just wait until the pro day and do all that stuff at the pro day, yada, yada.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're a projected top 10 pick, which a lot of those, it's a nice chunk of those names are Mason Graham, Shedeur Sanders, Abdul Carter. Right. Like you said, it happened to DK Metcalf a number of years ago. He was literally being discussed in the top 5. Now, how real that was, who knows? But he was in the discussion. He made it to the he blew the doors off the place with his 40. Terrible agility drills.
Yes.
And terrible. And he literally slid from that first round conversation to the last pick in the second round. And so that's a lot of money for the first, for your first contract. You go from the first round to the last pick in the second round. It's a nice significant drop down, the first 4 years of your NFL career. And look, a lot of guys don't make it past that first contract for one reason or another. The average is what is it? I think it's 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen. So it could be life-changing, a life-changing scenario. So again, if some of these guys, they're considered top half of the first round anyway, what's the difference if I go 13th or 15th? You know what I mean? Because I ran a fast 40 or whatever. So it does make sense. That said, I hate it. I want to see them all running around and jumping and shit. I really do. I really do.
Bean, I want to show you something real quick. I
want to see what you want to show.
I'm going to share my screen for a second. I got to show you this. Let's see. Bean.
All right. Thanks, big fella.
Bean, you see that guy right there?
I do.
Look at it. His sneakers look like your New Balances after you're cutting the grass over there in Virginia. That's Mason Graham.
Yeah.
Does he look like he should be the 7th overall pick, for God's sakes?
No, he doesn't.
Tested it. Listen, he measured in about 25 pounds lighter than his supposed play weight. He had 32-inch arms, which was in the 20th percentile. His hand size was 9 inches. You don't think of anything like that, but with defenders, it's important to get that latch. And that's in the 10th percentile. So, maybe he just wasn't. Maybe he doesn't look like he's in game shape right here. Maybe he needed to round himself back into game shape before he.
Yeah, I think it's smart. That's smart. I'm gonna let my game film do the talking.
That's it.
I ate a couple too many bags of Lay's potato chips. I had a little bit. I got too relaxed, Gunny. Little White Castles in the freezer section.
Hey, it happens.
It took
it
a
happens.
second. It happens. Tampa Pete checking in. Tampa Jets fan. Thank you for the super chat. Says, good evening, guys. I know it's off topic, but on Mock Mondays, have we thought about Ryan and T doing a free agency mock and let their decisions impact the mock draft? later in the night. Just an idea. Awesome content as usual. It's funny because we've talked about a few different things. Right now we are just completed with week 2, Tampa Jets fan. So we're gonna roll with this a little bit. We have the entire month of March and the larger part of
April.
So we got lots of time. We got 8 shows or so left. So we're gonna try a few things. It's interesting. One of the things I look at is like pre-combine and after combine too. And then once free agency happens too, obviously that changes things, but that's not a bad idea. Maybe we do one of the shows that we do exactly that. Like whatever you guys get done in free agency, Dom, we govern the draft that way. That'd be kind of fun. I like this idea. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Think we could pull that off, Dom?
Yeah. I mean, Tigo and Ryan, if anybody amongst our tight-knit crew, they're the ones who are rolling out those mock off seasons left and right. So maybe we can have those guys do a mock off season. We carry that into the draft.
Yeah, I like it. Tampa Pete, you're a great man. I appreciate this suggestion. Before Antwan Staley comes on, we got Antwan Staley in about give or take 10 minutes hopping on with us, everybody, spending some time, and we'll bend his ear on a few Jet subjects, see what we can learn. Before we do that, I do want to switch gears and remind you this is the final Thursday thick of it for our longtime sponsor, the one and only Bet US, everybody. I want to remind you that they still have this amazing offer. Again, last time I can offer it to you on the Thursday thick of it, a 150% on your first deposit, up to $2,000, everybody. And they will also give you a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits, up to $2,000. They are America's favorite sports book. And I'm going to tell you, with the combine, with the draft coming up, they have pivoted, and you got all kinds of prop style bets on who's going to get drafted where, who's going to go to what team, all that kind of stuff in free agency. You can get it all done on the great Bet US. Again, America's favorite sports book. All you have to do is use that promo code YouTube150 and the deal is yours. And I thank Bet US for hanging out with us. Admittedly, I'm very, very sad. I'm sad that they will be departing. Maybe next year they'll come back. Who knows? Yeah, Bet US. They've been with us the whole season, guys. That's kind of, it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you get a sponsor for a week, a month, but yeah.
They came in clutch. They came in clutch, man. They Bet you. I won some money in Bet US this year, so I'm a huge fan. So sad to see them go a little bit.
I have a sneaking suspicion Gunny, that they thought maybe, getting on with some Jets fans, that we were going to have some fun this year. They didn't know. You come over here, dude. It hurts to live in this town.
Yeah. But the good news is, like, in order for us to enjoy football, maybe that's it. We got to gamble. Degenerate gamblers. Like, this is how we make football fun for us, because the Jets aren't doing it. So we've got to go ahead and put our money into other teams, because at least then we can get buy-in on some other teams getting some W's, since our team can't provide those for us. So it might have made sense for them too.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I just know it. They were like, oh man, it's like when the NFL said last year, when they gave us another 7 primetime games, is that we felt like the Jets owed us. We're like, dude, what could we possibly owe you? You want to come over here. This is what it's like. You've been here for 10 minutes and you're already mad and resentful. It's like, shit, man, we live here.
Yep, we tried to tell them, don't do this. 7, that was too much. We all said it. We were like, that might be a little too much.
Yeah, right. They were like, 10. Dude, Gunny, they gave us 3 games in the first 10 days. 3 games in 10 days. That should be like 21 days. They're like, it's the Jets. Yeah, 2 of them prime time.
Look at that roster. They're going to go ahead. It's worth it.
They're going to be great. Yeah, they did us no favors, man. Now, look, I won't throw that up as like the reason, right, that we had a failing season, but it didn't help. Can we at least say that? They didn't help us.
Nah, not at all.
Not at all. Sodak checking in. He says, I'm shocked Dick Chimney isn't reaching out to be on here. Yeah, I'm not shocked, Sodak. I spent when I first made this channel, I spent probably the first year ripping him a new gluteus hole. But yeah, he was pissing me off then too. But yeah, I don't know if he knows I exist, but I have a, you know, I don't think if he does know I exist, I don't think he necessarily thinks highly of me, Dom. That's
he knows I exist. You know why? You know why I know he
blocked your ass.
Because he blocked my ass. Yeah.
Why did he block you?
Because we in a gentle back and forth. I guess he didn't appreciate being called Dick Chimney.
Really? Oh, it's so good.
Soft as baby poop.
Baby
Yeah.
shit on breast milk.
Well, and you know, conversely, Connor Hughes, we were calling him Country Club Connor. We brought him on, and he said, "I like it." You know, he's like, I think
He embraced it. He was like,
right.
I'll embrace this. This works.
He said, "Oh yeah, you know what?" He goes, "That's pretty good." Both of those, by the way, are Frankie from Flatbush specials.
Correct.
If you weren't aware, it's like Scratchy Malachi with Malachi Corley for always being, you know, a healthy scratch, a Scratchy Malachi. He has Frankie comes out with some of the best little nicknames that we have on you know, in this Jets realm. But what else? So I don't want to get into too much because I want to you know, I want to save some of this for when Antwan Staley jumps on here in just a few minutes, everybody. But one thing I do want to talk, like I do want to keep with like the draft combine stuff.
Yeah.
There is now talk, Dom, of Shedeur Sanders. You know, I think you saw, you know, Sauce was kind of beating on the Shedeur Sanders tree a little bit. And realistically, he does end up there at 7. I don't see it, but let's say that he does. Is he a guy that if the Jets picked, I know that you like him a little bit more than others, Dom, but is he somebody that you would get excited about? Or is it like, okay, man, this is going to be tough. You think he's made for New York? You think it's going to be a bad decision? What would be your overall feel?
Overall feel, it would be curious. And let me explain. The player Shedeur Sanders, I think, gets a lot of undue hate because of everything else that's attached to Shedeur Sanders. Now, I will say, when you're talking about just sheer arm strength, he doesn't match up to some of the you know, to Will Howard and Cam Ward, who have, you know, much stronger arms than Shedeur Sanders. But you know, there's no denying that Shedeur Sanders is head and shoulders the best processor, has the best processor, understands what defense is doing pre-snap, adjust pro-snap, get through his progressions. He's the most accurate quarterback. He throws a very good ball, uses the field between the hashes, which is something that a lot of college quarterbacks don't do. So and I think he's a leader between the sidelines. Now, why am I curious? Because there's still that circus that comes along with Shedeur Sanders and his dad and all that stuff. Do I think he can handle New York? Sure, I think he can handle New York. Do I think the Jets should trade up for him? No, I don't think they should trade up for any quarterback personally. But you know, if he's there, he's going to be in the conversation. I think the skill set is one that would take some time. Again, you know, in this hypothetical situation, he lands at 7 and you take him. I don't think it's hey Shedeur, here's the keys, you know, go lead us to the promised land. No, this is something where you take some time and you kind of let him sit and develop. And that's why you have a guy like Tyrod Taylor. But again, I think it's all moot. I don't think he's going to reach us there at 7 anyway. So
yeah, there's a lot of snags on the route from the beginning of the draft to pick 7. Everybody, I don't see it either. With that all said, our guest for the evening is here. So let's not waste any time and jump right in here. Let's say hello to the great Antwan Staley. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm all right. How y'all doing?
Antwan, man, thanks for coming, dude. Appreciate you. I know you've been traveling a bunch, so we're real grateful that you joined us here and talk a little shop with us, brother.
Yeah, no problem. Like, thanks for having me.
No,
yeah,
no
so
problem.
I'm GreenBean. That fella on the bottom corner there next to you is Gunny. If you haven't met it, you sounds like, you know,
Yeah,
you
I've
and
met
Dom.
before,
Yeah,
Nah,
I've
me
been
and-
on
me
with
and-
y'all before.
I had him on the show. Yeah, I had him on the show.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go. All
I know
right.
it's
Well, cool. So I almost thought that was a Jets hat you had on there, but the green's not right.
No.
Yeah.
It is definitely not a Jets hat.
Wait, why'd you say it like that though? Why'd you?
No, I'm not a Jets fan. No, I'm just not a Jets fan. But it's all good. Like I'm from North Carolina originally, so
As long as it's not a Miami Heat hat, because we kick you right the hell off the stream if you had
well,
a
I
Heat
can,
hat on.
I can go get one. I have one in the back.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for carving out some time with us.
Yeah.
As you know from hanging out here for a little while, this is one of the more exciting parts of the season for Jets fans. We don't do very well when the games are actually being played, Antoine. But when we can pretend and make shit up and live in this fantasy world, we're on our game here. We like this sort of stuff. So we're pretty excited heading into the combine, obviously, and then that being a precursor to the draft. So we love to talk prospects. We want to get into some Jet stuff with you, if that's cool, and see what you can tell us, and maybe a couple little secret nuggets. Maybe I'll let Dom kick it off. Dom was the fella who asked you to come on. Again, we appreciate it. So I'll let Dom ask you question number one, if that sounds good.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Listen, Antoine, I know you were down at the combine in Indianapolis, and since you came home today, you obviously didn't stay for the you were there for the important part. You were there to see the pressers, the coaches. Yeah, I'm sure you got some you got some good clips with the player interview, so on and so forth. But the big part was the big thing on Tuesday was it was really AG and Muji's first interaction since the introduction press conference, which got some people got some excitement back in the fan base and whatnot, new kind of new blood, this and that. There were a lot of empty kind of reactions from the pressers down in Mobile from AG and Muji. So give me your thoughts on what you thought was said, what could be construed, or what didn't they say? Was it as empty as everyone kind of feels? Is that your take on it?
I mean, a lot of Jet fans are upset for a lot of different reasons there. Obviously, I don't necessarily need to get into all the reasons why. We probably be here all night. But, I mean, I think, I didn't necessarily like the fact that they, as far as the Aaron Rodgers situation, I know they came out with the statement. I thought it was, we're still gonna ask questions. I think, we're still gonna want to know why they wanted to get rid of him, and what led up to the decision. I know, for their perspective, they just we're moving on, but it's still, the story's not finished because Aaron hasn't said his side of the story. So until we get his side of the story, then this thing is not complete. They may not want to talk about it, and that's totally fine. That's up to them. But at the end of the day, people want answers, and it's our job to give us those answers. So I think that was interesting, the fact that they addressed that. You looked at, talk about just the quarterback in general. Somebody asked him what was he looking for in the quarterback, and he said a winner. Glenn did, and that got people riled up too, because obviously Aaron Rodgers' history and the MVPs and all that. Although he's not that same player anymore, but he does have that history of being a top player in this league, and he is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So again, that was probably interesting to me. And another thing too, there was a lot of different interesting nuggets there, but I was interested in what Muji said about just the prospects. I asked him what prospects he was kind of specifically looking at in the draft, and I mean this week in Indianapolis, and he basically said, it's a good draft everywhere, which it is, but he specifically singled out the defensive linemen, which, you look at just the drills today, you can see why they stand out, because there's so many talented ones. And they also said running backs too, so which is also interesting. It is a really good running back draft, but
yeah, correct.
A lot of people don't think they necessarily need one. I don't, but Breece Hall is in the last year of his deal, and he may not stay. So I mean, they might decide to take one, come April. So I found that pretty interesting too.
Yeah. Now, talking about AG a little bit more, he looks like he controls, his demeanor is very alpha, very matter of fact, at least in the limited time we've seen him in front of the camera, and so on and so forth. A little bit different of a vibe than Robert Saleh. Saleh, in sense, always gave off that very laid back kind of, like player first vibe. And not to say that Aaron Glenn's not player first, but the vibe is different. Like,
Correct.
do you think what he's bringing, like what is AG going to bring to the Jets that the last regime didn't have? And like, do you think it's going to be enough to like sell not only the fan base, but the locker room, the guys in the locker room as well? Like that you go from soft to what seems to be on the surface, somebody who's a little bit more direct and hard, so on and so forth. So, I mean, you got your finger on the pulse there. What's that vibe like? Talk to us about AG.
But basically, I mean, I think you're talking about a guy that was a Bill Parcells disciple there. Obviously, Bill Belichick, had some influence there when he was with the Jets too as well. So, I mean, of course, he's going to be, by nature, a bit of a hard ass. I mean, that's just basically what it is. So, and I think that's kind of what the Jets need a little bit too, like to change the culture there. I mean, you look at a guy like Quentin Williams and his comments there, and AG spoke about that too, just addressing that he did speak with him. And I know people, again, players were not happy. Some players were not happy about Aaron Rodgers being released, but it's a way to handle that. And just to, I felt like that was very immature to go to social media exactly when it happened and just to, display that reaction when, you have teammates you can express your dislike to, you have family members, you have the coaches, actually, if you want to go that route too. And I think they would be willing to listen as opposed to just, putting the thumbs down and basically saying, oh, it's another rebuilding situation. Now, having said that, can he rally and, get fans excited? I don't know, because I mean, it's been 14 years since they made the playoffs. So I think Jets fans, y'all would probably know better than I would, but I think winning solves all of that. Like until they start winning, at least or get some type of semblance of winning and some excitement there, I think people are going to be very skeptical because, some people didn't even want Aaron Glenn to be the coach to begin with because they thought, it's very similar blueprint as Todd Bowles, obviously Robert Saleh, and now you got another defensive guy there. So I think some people just wanted an offensive mind. But, what I will say is I think people have to give it time because this team has a lot of holes. This is not like the last 2 years where I feel like, they went for it and they thought they were Super Bowl contenders. And obviously that didn't happen. But, you have 28 free agents and it's going to be a lot of turnover this upcoming year on both sides of the ball. In particular, the defense. I think they have more holes defensively than they do offensively coming up there where you need a defensive tackle. You probably need another edge rusher too, to be quite honest with you, although I know Jermaine to be back, but I don't know what kind of shape he might be in, Achilles wise there. I mean, physically shape, he's going to be fine, but, it might take him a little bit of slow start to, get going, especially coming off a major injury like that. Linebacker help, you need that. You don't have any safeties whatsoever. You need another corner. So, yeah, they have a lot of holes to fill, and they're probably only going to have like $65 to $70 million of cap room in order to spend. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work to do on this one. I want to, before we get to a question from Gunny, our buddy Connor Long checking in, Antoine, from JetX and New York Jets flights. What is it again? I always mix up the word.
Flight deck.
There it is. Our buddy says, Gunny, Bean, Dom, Antoine, 4 goats. Does it get any better than this? All right. Thank you, Connor. Very, very nice to hear. Antoine, do you think the NFLPA report card will motivate Woody? I mean, I've seen some of the press come out, Lieberfeld and some others said, hey, man, Jets facilities are great. What are you talking about? What do you think that the impact will be on Woody Johnson? You think he'll be motivated to make any changes, anything like that?
Well, I know we had asked him that after the the initial press conference with Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, not about this specifically, but just him being a better owner, and he said he has to do better. He has to look himself in the mirror. So I don't know if it's going to motivate him or not, but at least he got on top of it and said like he has to do better. And I think part of it is just staying out of the way and allowing people to do their job. And I feel like he does that to an extent. He's not a meddler like from the start, but if he feels like you're not doing your job correctly, just from what I've heard from various people or just kind of observing things, then he starts to put his hand in the cookie jar a little bit more. And then, it becomes a bit of a mess. Obviously, fire Robert Saleh, got involved in the Devontae Adams trade, got involved with Hassan Reddick there, obviously firing Joe Douglas in November. So, yeah, I mean, you hired these people to do a job, so you have to allow them to do it to the best of their ability. If you feel like they're not doing their job, then just get rid of them, just fire them. Like that's the point. That's a whole nother conversation. But you have to let your people do your job, like the people that you hired and put in place. So I don't know if it's going to motivate him, but it should definitely. In terms of the facility, it's about perspective. Like I mean, I've been to various facilities. The Jets are a little bit outdated. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it needs to be updated. Like if you look at some of these other facilities, like the Dolphins were top, like at the top. I mean,
Mhm.
and they have a newer facility that they built in 2019, 2020. So I think the Jets was built in 2009, somewhere around there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, I think you need to really upgrade that. Just it doesn't need to be a major overhaul, but it seems like it needs to be a little bit more there as far as like improving that. And then they have improved the food situation there. It seems like if we're just talking with people, so that is a start there because a lot of the players were not happy about that. Despite some people don't think. I know Connor Hughes takes pictures of the food when he's when we're there at the facility, but the players get served different food. So I'll just keep it at that.
Yeah, well, as long as they take out the poisoned salmon, everybody, we got to make sure that doesn't make its way back into the
Oh
rotation.
man.
We'll be all right. We're here with ANTWAN STALEY, New York Daily News Jets beat reporter. So if you have any questions, go ahead, send them on in. I'll scan the chat and I'll get on as many as I can. And that will lead me to a question from our buddy Gunny down there in the corner.
Yeah, so actually Connor stole one of my questions. I don't know how he knew I was going to ask this, but he did. That was one of the first ones I was going to ask, but you answered it, so it's already gone. But I kind of wanted to kind of get a feel for what based off of your expertise, like in your opinion, what's the biggest misconception that fans currently have about the Jets right now that we're just not aware of? Like there's a misconception that's just not true, but it's something that we're believing.
Well, I think some of them believe that 2025 is just going to be a rebuilding situation. I don't think it necessarily is a rebuilding situation, but it is retooling, and they may have to take a couple of steps back just to move forward a little bit there. I mean, they won 5 games a year ago, and yes, I understand when you say that to Jets fan, they're like, well, they lost the game because of this, they lost the game because of that, and I mean, you don't know how it would have played out. Like ultimately, maybe if Zerline had made those kicks, or I still don't think they would have been a playoff team. I still think they had issues there, but I don't think there's a total rebuild. I think they could possibly, win 7 games or so, something like that too. I think that's probably where, that's probably going to be about where the Patriots and Dolphins fall too. Because, I think Miami's a, good team, but, Tua's his health and everything like that, I can't really, put them as a playoffs team. And I think the Patriots are a team that's coming too. So I think it's just they got to give the Jets some time and Aaron Glenn and Muji to get things together. But I don't think it's a total rebuild there. But, I think that's a big misconception right now among Jets fans that they're just completely tearing it down and just, they may be a bad team next year, but it's not because they want to, completely tear it down. It's just because you look at the roster right now. Again, there's a lot of holes, and they're gonna have to try to find a way to fill all those holes with, a limited amount of money. So it's gonna take some time in order to do that. It's not, you can't do that, especially when you may have 4 or 5 holes just defensively, and then now you have to go in free agency and try to spend money that way. So again, just be patient, Jets fans. That's what I would tell people. But I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions right now, to answer your question.
That's a great question, by the way. I think that was interesting and provocative. I was very interested in to see the answer. I was like, oh, yeah, that's good.
I thought he was leading you to say Diana Rossini's report was fake. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Trying to get something, trying to get a clip. ANTWAN, if you had to now, look, you have an idea, on like kind of their thinking, you hear things. But from your angle, if you had to put money on the top 3 in-house free agents that the Jets are going to go after and try to secure this offseason, who would you say that top 3 wish list is for the Jets?
That's kind of hard to say, but I've heard some names kind of floated around there. I mean, you look at, I guess you have to start with quarterback because I think that's the most important position. So you look at, a guy like Justin Fields there. I know some people, have been, up lukewarm on him. I think he did a serviceable job for the Steelers there. Won 4 out of his 6 games that he started for Russell Wilson there before Russ ended up taking over. So I think it kind of starts there, and he'll compete with Tyrod Taylor, and then in addition to that, I imagine they probably still draft a rookie at some point too. I know they have Jordan Travis, but if somebody asked about Jordan, I don't know who asked about Jordan Travis on Tuesday, but they didn't even mention his name. So you can take that with however you want to take it, but you have to remember this regime didn't draft him, so they may
Right.
look at him in a different way than the previous regime with Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. So yeah, I expect them to be heavy in the quarterback position, but yeah, I think Justin Fields is probably one of the top targets there. You look at some other people that could potentially help too. I think Carlton Davis, from coming from the Lions there, obviously has ties to Aaron Glenn there. I think you're going to see more and more people, Lions, free agents that are a lot of guys that are free agents that possibly potentially may come over to the Jets too, just to follow AG there. So I think a guy like Carlton Davis, especially with the whole need at cornerback opposite Sauce Gardner there. I know you have Michael Carter there too as well, who they gave an extension to, the slot corner, but. He didn't have a really good season. He was hurt pretty much all entire year. So I imagine he'll have a bounce back year too as well. So yeah, I think Carlton Davis will be really good for that organization, especially considering, you want people that can display your message, throughout the whole locker room. So yeah, those would be some names I would look at too. I had to think. I can't really think of a third one at the moment, but
well, who do you think they'd grab, like from their own free agents too? Like, who do you think that they're going to try to keep? Like, some names that we talk about, like Jamie Sherwood. He's an in-house guy. They change, from safety to linebacker. We watched him, develop over the years. Last year, he got that opportunity and he made good. But his defensive, we got his two coaches, Ulbricht's down there, DC for Atlanta. We got Saleh with the Niners. More than likely, there'll be some attraction to those teams. You think there's any chance that the Jets keep him, or is there another guy that you feel like is a sure thing that the Jets are prioritizing to keep around?
I don't know if it's a sure thing, especially considering things, but I think they would like to keep Jamie Sherwood. Just kind of what I heard out of the combine too. Obviously, it's going to cost them, a good amount of money to do so, because I think he's going to have a lot of interest there. He had a really good, fantastic 24 season. Obviously, the Jets defense, statistically they were third in the league, but I feel like those numbers are a little misleading. Just because after they fired Saleh, the defense kind of took a little bit of a nosedive there.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I've written about it, but it was definitely more of a below average defense, especially for their standard. But yeah, they would like to keep Sherwood there. Some people ask me about DJ Reed. I don't see any path for that happening. I think people already knew before the season was over that he was going to test free agency. Even quite frankly, once they gave Carter the extension, the writing was pretty much on the wall there. So yeah, I don't see that happening. In terms of other guys, Tyler Conklin's probably going out the door too. Maybe a guy like Morgan Moses you might decide to bring back, but from what I understand, they want to get younger there, and Morgan is getting older and he dealt with a lot of injuries too as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that's an option either. So yeah, I mean, I imagine they get some kind of veteran safety, but it probably won't be anybody that's currently on the roster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're hoping that, I think most Jets fans are hoping that they keep Sherwood. It sucks to see a guy, homegrown, finally, develop and finally make an impact, and then see you later. I think most of us would like to keep him, but I think a lot of us aren't necessarily holding our breath. You know what I mean? We think it's a good chance that
it's going to come down to money. It's going to come down to money. That's
right.
Basically what it always does. I mean, I think from what I understand, he would like to stay, but again, if somebody just blows him out the water with, just fantastic deal, I mean, you got to take it, especially considering he was a lower round draft pick, and I'm sure he wants to get paid. And this might be his only contract where he can get that big money. So, I mean, go get it where you can get it.
That's right. I know I would. Yeah. So Dom, you're up, buddy.
Yeah. Speaking of the free agents, or maybe soon to be. Obviously, we know, we don't have to talk about the Aaron Rodgers that's been beaten dry. But they did kind of insinuate, at least Mooj insinuated, that it's probably going to be a post-June cut. They're going to spread that cap hit out. Do you think this is kind of a two-parter for you? Obviously, we made the deal for Devontae last year. Mm-hmm. Is there any speck of hope for the people who are hanging on to it out there that Devontae could stay without Aaron Rodgers? And if not, which I probably believe it's not, is there any trade value for him? I mean, the cap hit, or the cap savings in this case, which is almost $30 million with $8 million dead, is the same whether they trade him or outright cut him. So it could. Do you think that they could say, "Hey, Devontae, go tell us where you wanna play, and we'll try to we'll try to work something out so that they get something, recoup something back." Is there enough value on Devontae to even do that, do you think?
It's value. Like, he's still a top echelon receiver. The problem, I'm going to answer your question probably with just one specific answer. The problem is, like, he's going to have to restructure his deal no matter where he goes because of the cap hit.
Correct.
And he wants to still get paid like a top receiver. He's owed no more guaranteed money on his contract. I mean, he's 32 years old. Like, he still wants to be paid. So and they've had no communication with him at this point. So, I mean, you can kind of take that, pretty much know where this is leading. I'm surprised it's taking this long for them to do it. To release him, but I imagine it's gonna happen sometime next week because it has to. So, but I don't see any scenario where he would come back. Quite frankly, I don't see any scenario where he would want to come back to a rebuilding situation where, one, you're all the way out here. He wanted to be out in the West. When he went to the Raiders, he wanted to be closer to home. He came out there solely for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Rodgers is no longer going to be on the team. So I think he wants to go back out west where he's closer to home. I think a team like the Chargers makes complete sense for him, where, you can team up with a guy like Ladd McConkey, and, you have a really good, quarterback in Justin Herbert, who had a good year, although he stuck it up in the playoffs, but still, like, he had a really good regular season. So I think that's more of a fit for him. So, yeah, I don't see any scenario where that happens, especially considering they have not had communication with him at all.
Yeah. Well, listen, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, once they move on from Aaron Rodgers, you can probably kiss the Devontae
And
Adams
they were
thing.
asked about it, and then basically they just said, "Oh, he's on the team." So again, it's
For
not
now.
always what people say. It's kind of how they say things.
Yeah.
So they just say, "Oh, he's on the team right now." We don't necessarily know what we're gonna do. We're just not gonna tell you what we're gonna do.
Yeah. And what? Just real quick, one more thing in terms of the veterans on the team. What's the vibe you're getting on CJ Mosley? I mean, I know that the cap hit is real big. It costs more for him not to be on the roster than it would to keep him on the roster. So,
Correct.
And listen, I mean, CJ, for what it's worth, we know why when they brought him in here, when McKagan brought him in here, I mean, he was paid. He got paid. And for all the time here, you could tell that, like, he's been a trooper, he's been a leader. You could tell he's the glue in the locker room. And, even though, age, Father Time is caught up and he's probably not the same player he was, let alone with the injuries and whatnot. You never know if he's going to be up to that point, but there's something to be said about that leadership in the locker room, that veteran presence. So, what would you suggest, or what do you suspect is going to happen with CJ Mosley this year?
I think that could go either way, simply because you could keep him for a year. Remember, he restructured. He took a pay cut last offseason.
Correct.
So that's why, like, I could see him staying, simply because you cut him. Like, you make it a June 1st designation. I don't think you only save $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if Sherwood happens to move on, like, then if you cut him, then you also opening up another problem too, in addition to that. So I don't necessarily know if you want to do that too, in addition to losing Jamie and Sherwood. Yeah, sure, you got Quincy Williams there. I'm sure they're going to play, a lot of nickel and all that stuff too. But, to have a guy like that in the locker room who, commands respect too, and always been a constant professional. And, I think he could have a decent enough year where you can justify keeping him. So I really think it's 50-50. It really could go either way. If I had to guess, I probably would say they would release him, but I really could see it going one way or another.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a particularly tough one, because, like you said, the money is that's a serious money situation.
Yeah.
You got the injuries. He lost let's call it a half step even before the injury this year. But the poor fella, he signs over here. He got paid, but boy, oh boy, have we struggled to make this. Lots of hope, but very, very little production on the field as far as doing anything, making any real waves. So. You'd love to see him be a part of a winner, because he has been that trooper. But man, that's been a tough tenure, if you will. Guys, we're here with ANTWAN STALEY, New York Daily News Jets beat reporter. I'm going to end the poll real quick. We asked the question: if Sanders made it to 7, if unlikely, what would be your plan? So try my ass off to trade back, took it with 68%, take him with 26%, and ignore him and take a safety, got 5% of the votes. I can't believe 5% actually.
What safety are you taking this?
Yeah.
7. I don't know. I like Spark. I like but no, I'm not taking them that early.
Yeah. I mean, if
Right,
you're gonna,
7,
it's got to be Malachi Starks. But yeah. 7's just a little rich.
Yeah, if you want him, then you trade back. If you can find a partner anyway.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part of that. Gunny, what do you got for Antoine? You're muted, buddy.
So,
Muted.
Yeah, I caught myself. So another question I had for you. Again, a lot of these questions seem to kind of overlap. So I'm going to go ahead and go to one that you guys haven't asked them yet. Listen, we had a lot of conversations and talking from the press conferences about the ideology of wanting to create a culture of sustained winning. The question I have for you is, do you get the sense that there is buy-in on the Jets' plan to cement a winning identity in New York, or do you think a lot of these guys within the building may not be all the way bought into what Aaron Glenn is talking about?
If what I understand, I think the players that which has been limited amount of players I've spoken with, but yeah, some of them seem like the ones I've spoken with, they're bought in, like they're excited about Aaron Glenn too. I spoke to Jermaine Johnson and Quincy Williams when they were at Super Bowl already a row, and then they were really excited about Aaron Glenn. So they were very they didn't like this. They wanted to keep Aaron Rodgers, but again, obviously that didn't happen. But they love the AG hire, so I think they're bought in. I think some of the other players that I've kind of talked to off the record have also bought in. So I don't think that's going to be the problem. I think the problem is just getting enough talent, in order to get that sustained success too. So that's the issue. So it's not necessarily the message there. I think he's delivering a great message, whether you talk about, his introductory press conference or, even on Tuesday, I think he has some good things to say too, in terms of that culture. So yeah, I don't think that's going to be the problem. I think they just need to get more talent. I mean, kind of, lack of a better word. But yeah, that's what it's going to boil down to.
Yeah, but I want to talk about some of the draft stuff too, Antoine. But before I do that, give me your thoughts. Tell me what your vibe, what the vibe is, or what you feel about Aaron Glenn's coaching hires. In Tanner Engstrom and Steve Wilkes, who I think personally was a great hire. So I mean, and then the other subsequent coaches who, myself included, majority of fans really don't know much about. Obviously, Engstrom and Wilkes are going to be, the two main guys there to support AG. So
yeah, I'll talk about them. It's straight, I'm sure people wanted probably somebody that had a little bit more experience there. We'll see how it goes. But if he brings anything like how they are at Detroit, then they're probably going to rely a lot on the running game. Really physical team, offensive line there. That's why I think offensive line is in play at 7 potentially. They need a right tackle. I mount Will Campbell there from LSU to them, at least right now. I'll do another mock draft a little bit after free agency, just kind of because I want to see, what the holes are and everything like that. But, I think, I like Detroit's offense there. I think it really relied a lot on the running game there. I think they should, especially if they sign a guy like Justin Fields. You can kind of play off Breece Hall, who I think has been, underutilized during his whole entire tenure, with the Jets too. So, and even though you got people that want to trade him, I don't necessarily know I would trade him like now, but that's neither here or there. But I'm really excited at what they potentially could bring, especially if it looks a lot like Detroit. Steve Wilkes there, I think I was a home run hire for a few reasons. One, he has experience as a coach. I know it wasn't good experience, but especially in Arizona. But I thought he did a good job in Carolina to basically stabilize that organization after they fired Frank Reich.
Right, he threw Robbie Anderson off the field, man. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm from North Carolina, so I know, I was definitely familiar with what he did in Carolina there to go 6-6. So I thought that was a good hire in that perspective. And also, Aaron Glenn said it himself because I asked him about it, and he basically said the same thing that I've been saying. He can be a sounding board for Aaron Glenn and the whole entire staff because he's been in those pressure situations. Right. He understands what it takes to be a coach. And then when you got a guy that has never been a coach, at the NFL level, you're going to ask certain questions that you may not know the answer to, but I bet you he does because he has that experience being a head coach and being in those positions. So I think that was a tremendous hire for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, real quick. I want to get to E-Boogie checking in. Says, name your top 5 players you guys want to see at the combine for the Jets to take at pick 7. I'll go around, but I do want to get Antoine's thoughts about that. Who do you think? Well, from your perspective, who do you want to see the most at the combine as it pertains to the Jets and what they're going to be interested in?
Oh, I guess I can go like a top 10 to 15, but yeah, we will. I will do that. But what I will say, like Mason Graham, I think some people like a whole big argument on a thread that I produced, basically talking about Jalen Walker, another guy that I like. So those are 2 of them. And there was a guy basically said they shouldn't take a defensive guy at all at first at number 7, which I'm like, I don't agree with that at all, especially with all the holes there. But yeah, Mason Graham there. You need somebody that, in addition, to Quentin Williams on the inside there, they've tried to treat the cheap route. Getting like a guy like Javon Kinlaw, it did not work at all. I do like Solomon Thomas as a good glue guy, but rotational guy. But you need a guy that can demand that attention, because Quentin just gets doubled and triple teamed too much on a consistent basis. He did have 6 sacks last year, but I think some people thought he had a bit of a down year. But his pressure rate was really high, so it wasn't necessarily like he wasn't getting pressure on the quarterback. It's just when him and Will McDonald are the only, consistent pass rushers on the defensive line, I'm going to double team Quentin Williams pretty much every time. So, getting a guy like Mason Graham would definitely help with that. Jalen Walker, another guy that I like there. You can line up. He played 4 different positions at Georgia. So you can line him up at the edge. You can put him at off-ball linebacker. You can kind of put him at, bit of a Sam, star too as well. So yeah, a lot of different ways you can use him too as well. And he's good in coverage. He does a lot of great things well. And especially if you lose a guy like Jamie Sherwood, then I think he would be the really good replacement. And you can use him kind of like a Swiss Army knife, like passing downs and also rushing the passer. So 2 guys I like there. In addition to that, Tyler Warren, who also wrote about today, definitely have to look at that. I know a lot of people were upset that they didn't take Brock Bowers a year ago. Warren's a different type of tight end. I think he's more of an inline guy, traditional, who loves to block, very athletic, has a basketball background, played that in high school. Also was a former quarterback in high school out of Mechanicsville, Virginia, with a 3-star out of Penn State. They just happened to develop him, and he looked like George Kittle light. That's basically what it is. I think, Derry Jeremiah, when we spoke to him on the conference call a couple of weeks ago, basically said he is a mold of, Kittle and Rob Gronkowski. I won't put those expectations on him, but he can be really good. I'm not saying he's going to ball out like Brock Bowers did. I mean, that was just insane what Bowers did with the Raiders. But, I think I could see a world where, a guy like Tyler Warren could get like 75, 80 catches as a rookie. And I think you would take that. So, those are guys that I look at too as well. I know a lot of people talk about Jackson Dart there. The Jets they do like him. I don't like him at 7. So I don't know if I would necessarily take him there. So I would definitely, but it's also somebody that you look at that's on the radar.
Oh man, if could you imagine, guys? The Jets select Jackson Dart, pick 7. What would happen?
High school too, right?
Oh man,
yeah, he went to the same high school as Zach.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, he transferred there. It's a little bit different, but still, and I think he's a better quarterback than he has more experience than what Zach did when he came out.
Yeah.
But still, I just found that kind of ironic that he came from the same high school as Zach Wilson.
Yeah, it's interesting.
He also,
to say the least, right?
He also went out of his way to go ahead and talk about Zach Wilson being one of his favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. He did a little thing about breaking down the quarterbacks, and Zach Wilson's name was mentioned as one of the quarterbacks he looks up to. That's when he lost me. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Zach Wilson, then I was like, it's going to be a no for me, big dog. I don't think he has a first-grade pedigree or round about him.
Me either.
I think he's going to go in the first round because it's quarterback and people are desperate.
People are going to
The moment that man said Zach Wilson was a quarterback he looked up to, and I was just like, stay the F away from my team, please. No.
Yeah,
And
like
it's the
who do you
same for me,
model your
too.
game? Who do you model your game after? Well, Zach Wilson.
Zach
That's
Wilson.
it.
And yeah, he was some of his performances, especially in bigger games, were very uneven. And in addition to that, you look at the offense that Ole Miss runs with Lane Kiffin. It's not really a pro style offense there,
Nope.
so I don't think that necessarily translates over to the NFL very well.
Yeah, it didn't for who was the kid over there? Oh my God, I drew a blank. Who was the last quarterback that came out of it? It was a 3rd-round pick for Carolina.
You talking about Matt Corral?
Matt Corral.
Yeah.
Corral,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I almost said Matt Campbell, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
happens.
So what about I know you were traveling today, but I'm sure you've caught up on since. I mean,
I got it on now in the background. So if you're talking about
uh,
drills,
yeah, I mean, I think an interesting name that a lot of people have been talking about. Just because he's a traitsy guy, but the production wasn't there. Shamar Stewart. I mean,
yeah,
a perfect 10 RAS score. Take that for what it is. I mean, you knew that. I mean, he slimmed down 16 pounds from a couple weeks ago at the Senior Bowl. Which was slimmed down another 10 pounds from what they said his play weight was.
yeah.
So I want to talk about Shamar Stewart for a little bit because there are some, and this is chatter not only in social media but even in the chat here with the fans. There seems to be the people who say, hey, that guy, athletic freak, big, strong, long, checks off all the boxes. I want him. And then there's the guys like, well, his production wasn't there. You know what I mean? He had 4.5 sacks in college, period. Now, and I will say that Texas A&M used their defensive ends a little bit different. Not to say that he didn't pressure the quarterback. He didn't get home a lot, but he was asked to do a lot more, even from the 4-eye, a little bit out of place, both him and Nick Scorton as well. So talk about Shamar Stewart, enlighten the kids in the chat, or the men and women
Kids at home
in this chat. Your thoughts on Shamar Stewart?
I mean, tremendous athlete there. I mean, incredible. He has all the intangibles that you want in a pass rusher. I mean, he's big, he's fast, like great bend. You've seen it at the combine. I mean, he really is like an athletic freak. I mean, he really can do just about everything. So, but my problem, he's a 1st-round pick. I will say that. However, I think 2 things can be true. I still, and I saw Booger McFarlane tweet this saying he would consider taking him over Abdul Carter. I was like, yeah,
he would. He said,
at one, and I'm like, I would not do that at all. What scares me is the lack of production. Although, like with the tape, is different for him because he still was rushing the passer, but it's still at a certain point you still have to register that production. So I don't know if I would take him in the top 10, but he's going to go in the top 10 probably at some point there. But but then again, like it's so many good deep pass rush. I mean, James Pierce, Jr. I mean, you look at what he did. He made himself a lot of money.
4.47.
Yeah.
4.47. Running backs aren't going to run that. There's going to be running backs that run slower than that.
I would feel more comfortable taking a guy like that as opposed to the Stewart per se. But his measurables and intangibles just jump off the chart. I mean, you alluded to it. So somebody's going to take him. They may get a really good guy there, but it's kind of like Walker from Jacksonville a few years ago there, where he was taken number 1 overall, and people were saying he didn't have a lot of good production at Georgia, and that's really continued to translate over to the NFL. So again, you have to watch the tape there, and I think that tells you everything you need to know. But still, he's a 1st-round pick. I just don't know about me personally. I would take him that high, but somebody is going to.
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah put out a tweet, after Stewart got done with his testing today, and he had Stewart's measurables and test scores, side by side to Myles Garrett. Every single thing was right about the same. The height, the weight, the length, but the sacks.
Yeah.
Stewart had 4.5 in college, and Myles Garrett had like 45 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Correct. Exactly. That's the difference. That's the difference. If he registered like 15 sacks in college, like I would feel a lot more comfortable with that. Before now, I don't know, man. It kind of scares me. It scares me a little bit.
I hear you, but and I think you can attest to this, and as could Gunny and GreenBean. It's a traits-based league, right? Like the front offices are going to see the athletic upside. Where's this guy going to be in 2 years? Where's he going to be in 3 years? Is he capped? Is there still room to grow? He's jumping through the roof and quick and bendy and all that stuff. Like at only not, he won't even be 20. This is, again, I'm not standing for Shamar Stewart, but I'm just stating facts. He won't even be 21 come April's draft. He's going to be 20 years old. So the upside is limitless. So
of course, yeah,
guys like that just get more. They just get more love from these NFL front offices.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets consider him really hard, depending on what they decide to do in free agency and all that stuff too, and what holes they address too. Because as I alluded to again, they need some pass rushing help. Like I think Jermaine's going to be a fantastic player. I think he's going to bounce back from the Achilles. But again, I don't know how. Again, you need somebody. You don't want to put all that pressure on him to come back. And they need a consistent pass rusher outside of Will McDonald. So you need somebody else that can help Jermaine. And it's never a bad thing to have too many pass rushers, at least in this league, especially when you got all these top flight quarterbacks that you're facing. You're facing Josh Allen twice a year. So you need a guy that can. You need guys actually that can get a lot of pressure on him and take him down, and that's something they have not had recently.
And I think it also is worth discussing. We still don't know exactly the scheme that AG and Wilkes are going to run, because Wilkes has run a 3-4 base. He's his defenses have been very multiple. So in that case, maybe you do lean, and you brought up the name. I'm not suggesting that it's 7 or anything like that, but you bring up maybe a guy like James Pierce who can play that outside linebacker, drop off into coverage, and kind of, the lighter guy might make more sense than a Shamar Stewart. So there's a lot more that still has to be determined. And obviously, without free agency being here, we don't know what's happening.
And they have the personnel where they could go for 3-4 too. I mean, Jermaine played it in college. Will McDonald played 4-3 and 3-4 in college, so he can do it all too. So they have a personnel. I mean, you can put Quentin anywhere, and he's gonna, find a way to produce there. You just need, if you're gonna do that, you got to find a big guy.
Yeah, you need a big fat
guy that can stop the run too, because we know the Jets have had issues with that.
That's GreenBean's area.
There's a fatty question in the chat as well. But to your point, I mean, look, like you said, you need guys. I mean, you saw what happened. We had one injury to Jermaine Johnson, and all of a sudden we had no, other than Will McDonald, we had all of a sudden that vaunted defensive line that we were used to seeing the last couple of years. All of a sudden it was just gone. So having a little bit of depth there, I think, is a smart decision.
And even with him, like he would come with, it'd be spots though. It'd be games where he would have 2 sacks or 3 sacks, and then it'd be other games where he didn't have any. So again, you're gonna have peaks and valleys throughout the course of a season, but he needs help. Like you're gonna have to have somebody that can help him on a consistent basis too.
Yeah. Right. So our boy Sodak checking in says, Mr. Antoine, will the Jets extend Garrett Wilson or Sauce now? Do you see either one or both getting their big contract, their second contract sooner than later?
I asked this to Darren Bougie, and basically they said they were in favor of keeping good players. So I don't think it's a priority right now. The problem with that is, like, the longer you wait, the worse off it's going to be. Like, look at a team like Cincinnati. That's a perfect example. You have a guy like Jamar Chase, who I think right now, him and Justin Jefferson, former LSU teammates, are the best receivers in football. The Bengals have waited too long to pay all of these guys, and all of a sudden now they have to find a way to pay all of these guys and figure it out. And, where are you going to find the money at? You got a premium pass rusher in Cincinnati and Trey Henderson. You got 2 wide receivers that Joe Burrow really likes. One is super elite. T. Higgins, I think, could be a number 1 somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
And you're definitely, you're just going to struggle to find a way to pay them. And, the Bengals are cheap, notoriously cheap anyway. So my point is, ultimately, you need to pay these guys sooner rather than later, especially with the salary cap that's going up. I don't get the sense that that's a priority for them, and I don't think they may wait a year to do that, just to see if they want to keep these guys long term, and how they play and how they move in the locker room, and all this type of stuff too. But I would do it now, especially with the salary cap keep going up, because if you sign them now, even to a high profile deal, like even if it's the biggest cornerback contract ever in Sauce, for example, 2 years from now, like, it won't even be market value because the cap keeps going up, and then you will still have the money to spend, especially considering, the money's not going to start kicking in for a few years anyway, because they're still on the rookie deal. So I think it's smart for them to do it now. I just don't think they're going to.
No,
Yeah,
that's
because they don't have to, right? Like but we're hoping, like, with all the potentially bad feelings, like you mentioned before, there some players are upset with Aaron Rodgers leaving. Obviously, the disappointment of last year. Maybe you could get some of our leaders, like our young leaders, that is, with Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, locking them up now could just
Correct.
some positive juju into
I
the
agree.
organization.
I agree with you. I think they're just going to lean on like picking up their fifth year option and just saying like, okay, we'll just keep them. We have them control under 2 more years, and just
Right.
we'll take it from there. And then Jermaine it'll be interesting to see what they do with Jermaine because he also has the fifth year option floating around too. I don't know if they pick him up because for him it would be the fifth year option would be over $15 million, and then talk about the money and stuff like that too. They may want to decide. What I would do is try to sign him to a cheaper deal, not necessarily pick up the fifth year option. Sort of what the Packers did with Jordan Love a few years ago.
Yeah.
But you want to
Yeah,
keep
that's
people like Jermaine Johnson in the building because I feel like he is a guy that he wants to change the culture of an organization. And I think he's a real not only that, but I also think he's a good player and also a good guy in general.
Yeah. So, guys, we're here with Antwan Staley, New York Daily News. Send your questions in. We'll try to get to some. E-Boogie checking back in, and here comes the fatty question. Gunny, Dom C, and Antwan, any defensive tackle fatties that you got your eyes on? Antwan, who you looking at? I'm a big 4th to 6th round fatty guy. That's my range for my big fat run stuff and space eaters. What do you got? What are you looking at? You got anybody that comes to mind when you think about those 330 plus type of fellas?
Again, like this is a really good draft for defensive linemen. This is probably the best defensive line draft I've seen in some time too. So, you could go a lot of different directions too. Whether you would talk about, speed guy, it really depends on what they want to do. But yeah, if you talk about big fat guys, there's a lot to choose from there. Like there's a guy I forgot the guy's from Oregon's name.
Derek Harmon.
Yeah, yes, no, not Harmon, but
Jamari
another guy.
Caldwell.
Yeah, that's what it was. Caldwell. Yeah, Caldwell is probably the guy that I like the most too. No, I love Harmon too, but he's kind of a different type of guy. But he's
6'4",
Harmon,
something.
He is.
Fatty.
He is a guy like if you go to a 3-4, then I think he would be a guy that would be good for it. So he's a guy that I really do like, and it's kind of stood out just watching Oregon play all year because I usually watch probably like 4 or 5 Oregon games a year.
Yeah, well, they're on at night. There's nothing else ever going on Saturday night sometimes. I do the same thing. Yeah, and to E-Boogie's question, I think he probably tested his way out of our range, to be honest with you, because I think he's going to creep up possibly to the end of the first round. But Alfred Collins out of Texas is another guy.
Oh, yeah.
6'5", 330 pounds, 35-inch arms. 35-inch arms. In the top 97 percentile in arm length. You talk about a guy that just eats up, 2 gaps and eats up blockers and really doesn't care if he does much more, even though he has some skills to get at the passer. Really, that's not what he's on the field for. He's there to shut down use that length and shut down the run. So,
yeah, I think for me, man, get out of Ohio, man.
Talik
Williams.
Williams,
Williams,
yeah.
6'3", 330 plus pound guy, man. I think he can go ahead and play all 3 downs. He's somebody that could be there for us around that 4th round aspect. And then there was another guy coming out of Texas. Collins? Is it Collins?
That's Alpha Collins.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's another one, like 6'5", 6', 330 plus pound big body.
6'5", 330.
Yeah, big body dude. So again, a couple of big fatties in this draft class. Again, that defensive line position is deep in this draft class. We should be able to find a guy to plug in. And stop the run.
He's gonna go in the first. He's gonna go in the top 15 now. But I like Kenneth Grant. He's getting
I love Kenneth
Grant. A lot of people like Graham, but Kenneth Grant has been. I talked to a lot of reporters around the AFC East and a lot of Bills guys. And then, one of them asked me, who can we get at 30 that could maybe help us? And I was like, at the time, I was like, Kenneth Grant. I think he'll probably be there at 30, but there's no chance he's going to be there now. So now they're probably looking at guys like, Derek Harmon there. Another guy I'll throw out there, Elijah Simmons, too, from Tennessee. I'll throw him out there, too, as well. If you want to look at a big guy that can, stuff the middle.
Yep. I like that. Well, listen, Antoine, I don't know how much time you got left for, but
I
was just going to say, I don't know how much time.
I got about 10 minutes, if that's fine.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead, GreenBean.
Well, that's thank you, Dom. I was just going to say, I don't know how long we have you. We don't want to just make assumptions. So, but we appreciate you carving out some time, like was shared. You were traveling around, so thanks for taking some time and hanging out with us. I want to ask you a little bit. One of the guys that I think a lot of Jets fans, and this includes myself, are really hoping slides to 7 is the wide receiver from Arizona, Tet McMillan. If you had to guess, I mean, there's some obstacles there. I'm a believer that the Patriots, we're in danger of watching him get snagged to pair him with their new young quarterback that they took last year in May. What do you think the likelihood is that Tet McMillan makes it to the Jets pick at 7?
I mean, I think he could. I think the problem is, I was talking to a few scouts then. They were questioning his speed. They think he may run in the 4.6 range or something like that. If that's the case, then I don't know if he goes in the top 10 at all. So that's kind of what, some of the people were saying. Like, they want to see him run. They want to see, how quick he might be. If he can run in the 4.5 range, maybe 4.4 possibly. 4.4 definitely for sure. He would lock down a top 10 pick there. But some of the scouts that I spoke with there at the combine basically are really worried about his speed and think he may run slower than what he, displays on film. And if that's the case, then, some teams may look down on him and may decide. I still think he's going to be a first round pick, but he might not be taken as high as, top 10, like I think a lot of people have mocked him to. So I know I've seen a lot of Jets fans mention that they definitely need wide receiver help. If he's not an option too, I've also mentioned a guy like Luther Burton. That's also a guy, but you can get him later on in the draft too. You possibly get him in the second round, to be honest too, because even though he's a smaller guy there, you can probably plug him in the slot there. But unlike the guys that they already have, like Malachi Corley, like he has a little bit more experience, and I think he would come in and produce and also be a good 1-2 punch with a guy like Garrett, who a little bit on the smaller side, but also Garrett's an outside guy. He's he has the potential to be a top 10 receiver in this league, and I think they could possibly do damage.
Yeah,
well, real quick on Malachi Corley, because you mentioned him. Obviously, the Jets traded up for him last year. We even heard rumors that they were trying to get into the back end of the second round for him. And then we saw very, very limited, actual on-field playing time in the offense. Do you think that was something that this new regime might be able to get around? I mean, do you feel like he was doing things really poorly last year and there's a very good reason why we didn't see him? Or what's your hope overall for Malachi Corley to maybe be that, that wide receiver 3 for us?
Well, I mean, you look at it, Western Kentucky, I mean, he ran a very limited route tree. I mean, he really didn't do a whole lot. So, to go from that into now you're taking a step up in competition, and also like you're learning a new play, like you got to learn a lot of different stuff. And then, it just wasn't, from what I understand, just getting down, enough to the point where, he was inactive for some games too. He wasn't getting a lot of playing time. I've also heard, it's been rumors that, his attitude necessarily wasn't always the best, and, I know, we talked about that a little bit too as well. Obviously, people remember him dropping the ball and I believe the Houston game. So that was luckily they ended up winning, so it didn't hurt them there. But people just thought, they kind of put a black mark on there. But yeah, I mean, I think he still has potential there. I mean, it's just gonna, again, when you come from a smaller school like that, where you become the guy, you're a big fish in a small pond. Now you're a small fish in a huge pond in the NFL, especially, everybody's good in the NFL. I mean, Western Kentucky, I mean, you're playing in, a smaller conference there. You're going to have, good players. You may have one of good players on the team. you go to a team like Georgia or Ohio State, you have many good players, and probably half the roster is going to make it to the NFL, if not 75% of it. So I think he just has to learn be a little bit more of a professional there. That's kind of what I heard also, and also just take hold of the playbook there, because now he's learning the new playbook. So now he's going to have to learn new things all over again. In addition to that, so but I think he still has a bright future there. He was overdrafted. I think everybody can agree with that, but that's it's done and over with there. But now because he's cheap, he's going to stay on the roster, but he'll have an opportunity to produce there. It's just a matter of he just has to take the Bulls and bull by the horns and run with it.
Yeah, he did. So he's at the end of the season, he said, "Coach, I finally got the playbook. I'm good." And they said, "Yeah, well, too bad, we're fired, and we got to bring in a new guy. You got to learn. You got to start over, buddy."
Yeah.
Dom,
Exactly.
what do you got?
No, you know what? I was just gonna. He brought up Luther Burden, so I just wanted to, talk about that for a second. As you talked about, Antoine, Luther Burden's a little bit of a smaller guy. I think he's, 5'10", 5'11". I don't know where he's going to measure out at, but he's built solid. He's going to be over 200 pounds. I think he's got the versatility. Not only, I don't think he has to stay in the slot. I think he can bounce outside as well. He gives you that inside-outside versatility. And when I wrote him up, I actually comped him to the dollar store Garrett Wilson, because I think the way he moves in and out of his cuts, that short area quickness, what he does with the ball in his hands is really, really special. My question, and not every question, but it kind of just the statement on it is, you get Luther Burden, who's got that skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Is it too redundant to what Garrett Wilson has? And then Malachi Corley, if he's your 3, you don't have a guy that's really over 6 foot tall.
You need a bigger guy, yeah.
Yeah. So would you think that kind of that kind of setup that it is really ideal, or would you gun to your head, Luther Burden's on the clock in round 2, or a guy like Jack Besh or Jaden Higgins, who gives you a different profile than what Luther Burden does? I think it's a fair discussion, and again, I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just saying that could, as good as Luther Burden is, and I think he's very good, is it a little too redundant to what the Jets already have? That's the question.
That's fair. That's fair too. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. You could, address that in free agency too as well, if you want to get a bigger guy there as well. I don't imagine Alan Lazar is going to stay on the roster either. So, that's also creates another hole at wide receiver. Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. But what I will say is, I think, you probably do need a little bit of a larger guy too, especially to get those contested balls there. They tried Mike Williams there. Obviously, that didn't work there. If you're looking at something like that, then, definitely a guy like, maybe a Trey Harris from Ole Miss might be an option there too, maybe in the second round. So I definitely could see that. Yeah, I think he was 6'3", somewhere around there, over 200 pounds. So I definitely think he would probably complement Garrett a little bit more too as well. What I do like about Luther Burden too, I feel like he might be a poor man's Garrett, but I also think a guy like Curtis Samuel, who's been in the league for years, I also think he's a better, they're very similar skill set, but I also think he would be a better player than Curtis Samuel too. And especially you have the opportunity to use him in a lot of different ways, similar to how teams use Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, and I've seen also people comp him, and not the body size, because he's a little bit smaller in height, to Devontae Smith over there in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of play style and play skill that you get from a guy like Luther Burden. So yeah, I personally, like I said, you said it as well, and we've all been talking about it for months. There's so many holes on this roster. You can go so many different directions. I don't think the Jets can go wrong. Unless you're drafting.
Unless you don't pick the right guy.
Well, listen, that's always an option. That's always an option. But positionally, I don't think there's. You could throw a dart on the board, and whatever it lands on, you can make sense of it. So.
Yeah, that's what I've tried to tell people. There's so many. Just take the best available player at the position of need that you have. Whether that be D tackle, whether that be wide receiver, whether that be you're not going to take a safety at 7, but you could definitely take one later on in round 2. There, a guy like Xavier Watts too from Notre Dame, I definitely think also makes sense there, especially considering all the experience he had. All American there. I think you can plug him in day 1, and then he would be He'd be your top safety on your team.
And he's Aaron Glenn's version of Kirby Joseph, right? Playing center field, picking the ball off, ball skills, and all that. Yeah, listen, Xavier Watts is a guy that Jets fans have been clamoring about and kind of seeing, I think, reading between the tea leaves and seeing a fit there. Now, whether or not he lands to the Jets in round 2, still to be determined. There's a lot that happens before then, but yeah, I love that fit as well. I love that fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, our buddy, the big fella checking in, says Grant is a way better fit than Graham for the Jets. Now, we talked a little bit about both guys. Sounds like, I think we like both guys. But would you agree with big fella Antoine? You think Grant might be a little bit better fit paired next to Quinnen than maybe Mason Graham?
I can see. I guess I can see his vision a little bit. I don't know if it would be a better fit, but maybe it'd be a different fit. I can see that because I think those guys do different things too. And Grant also has put on some weight, put on some good weight too. I think he was asked there when I was there with a press conference how much he weighs. Like he weighs about the 330 range now, which is about where it had a guy like Javon Kinlaw last year too. So yeah, I could definitely see that perspective too, and everything that Kenneth Grant does. Also, can stop the run there, can get pressure on the quarterback on occasions too, and also, you leave him on one-on-one and out in space. Then I definitely think he has enough tools to beat, offensive linemen regularly. So yeah, I definitely think a guy like that. I think he's gonna be a top 15 pick. Like I really do. I think a team like Miami.
I was just going to say the same thing. I don't think he gets past Miami. Barring somebody falling that we're not talking about. But
I think that makes a lot of sense for them. That's something that they need. And then obviously, you put him up the next with Zach Steeler. And it'd be similar like what you had with Christian Wilkins there, and that could be pretty dangerous for opposing teams.
Yeah, I think that's me and you are on the same wavelength there. I think the absolute furthest he falls is probably Cincinnati at 17. So,
I don't even know if he falls that far now. I think if you see a guy like that still on the board, you probably trade up to go get him because at that point the cost is not a whole lot. Like you'll probably get a second round pick or whatever, but he's a guy that has Pro Bowl potential. I really think that. I mean, Michigan. You talk about Will Johnson too, the cornerback for Michigan. I mean, they had so many talented players on that team last year. I mean, I know they underachieved there, but it wasn't because of the defense. It was basically because they had a quarterback that couldn't really throw the ball to.
Yeah.
Now we had a poll, and then Gunny, if you got another question, we're nearing the end of the time here with Antoine. I'm going to end the poll. The question was, if you were stuck taking a non-premium position, all the wide receivers, all the tackles, quarterbacks, it's all gone. You got to switch to a non-premium position. What are you taking? Tight end came in with 64%, obviously with a lot of eyes on Tyler Warren. Linebacker with 18%. I think a lot of us are eyeballing Jihad Campbell. And kicker, as a joke, I threw in there. Okay, 9%, Dom. That one.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Why at 7? What's wrong? Why is that such a reach for you? Safety came in with 8%. So more people are into a kicker at 7 than the safety. I keep sticking safety in their face. Thanks for everybody for jumping on. One more question from me, Boogie here. Antoine, any ball hawk defensive back, please? Top 5. And Gunny, your top 5 tight end. All right, there's a lot there, Boogie. Your ball hawk and safety. We were just talking a little bit about Watts. You mentioned Starks earlier.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to be taking a safety where, at least where Malachi Starks goes, I would think. I don't think Watts either. I think that's going to be a little bit rich. Any other ball hawking safeties you got your eye on that might be a fit for the Jets?
If you say safeties, then I was going to mention cornerback, but yeah, if you mention safeties, I mean,
you could say cornerback. That's fine too.
Okay, I'll mention cornerback too. Like I like Ravel from ECU, and I know it's a little bit of a biased homer pick there, although I went to ECU. So, but I mean, I think he would have been a first round pick. He still might be a first round pick, despite the injury that he had. So I think you put on this tape on 23 there. I mean, the man can do it all. Ball hawk guy. arguably, I think he stayed healthy. He had a chance to be the top corner coming off the board in this year's draft.
He'd be a fit for this man scheme that we're gonna run.
I agree.
It's gonna be a heavy man scheme.
And then imagine him with Sauce on the other side, like,
Yeah,
and then you had Carter in the slot.
6'3", long, forget it, man.
Yeah, I mean, they would complement each other like perfectly, especially when you're going up against these bigger receivers too. Like, I think they'd be just a great fit there. So I don't expect the Jets to take him that high, but I think he's somebody whoever takes him is going to be really, really happy.
Yeah, that's I know. I'm real curious to see who our cornerback 2 is going to end up being this year, like you mentioned earlier. And I think we all got a pretty we're coming to grips with the idea DJ Reed is all but gone. It's a matter of time, not if, but when. Gunny, did you have a final question for Antoine?
Yeah, Antoine. All right. So this is going to be pretty much out of nowhere here, man. So what's the most surprising aspect so far of this offseason when it comes to the Jets? Has anything surprised you? Do you foresee something happening that, might go ahead and throw a curveball into what we should expect as Jets fans? Any kind of surprises that you've seen or is in the future for us?
Nothing yet. But anytime you have a new regime in there, they're gonna have players that they really want on the team, and then you're probably gonna have players they don't want on their team. So I mean, I won't say who it is because I don't, it'd be all speculation. But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody, a big trade were to happen at some point with one of the potential starters. I don't know who that might be, but I have some ideas there. I don't want to throw it out there because I don't want people to necessarily run with it. But it wouldn't surprise me if would be some kind of trade there along the line there. We mentioned Breece Hall. Like, I mean, I guess if you want to go there, like, I don't know, I wouldn't trade Breece Hall, but again, like, if they're looking at running backs and if they're thinking about taking one, you might as well go ahead and see what's out there, potentially for Breece Hall. And also, it gives an opportunity to get that value back from the Devontae Adams trade with the 3rd round pick too. I know they have the Lions 3rd round pick, but it's a little bit later in the 3rd round. So, and again, like we talked about all the holes that they had, that'll be a way to get some of that back too, especially if you're able to hit on your picks. You're not going to hit on all your picks, but I think, you have 7 picks. You probably, especially in this, like, you need to hit on, in a perfect world, at least 5 if you can.
Okay. Yeah. I think so too. I'm a big fan of hitting on every single pick. That's what I think.
Yeah. Perfect world. Yeah, you would, but obviously that's highly unlikely to do.
Oh yeah, but highly unlikely. Well said. Antoine, I want to thank you for hanging out with us again, everybody. Antoine Staley, New York Daily News, carving out some time. This was really great. I appreciate your time. Anything you want to say, promote, anything like that? You got anything interesting coming up you want people to know about or anything?
I mean, you can find me at Antoine Staley on X, Twitter, all social media platforms too as well. Instagram, all that stuff. And then find my work in New York Daily News. Basically, next week, I'm gonna take a couple of days off, especially with me traveling. Next week we'll talk about some of the quarterbacks that the Jets could potentially look at, especially if they look at potentially drafting one later on in the draft too. Just some of the stuff that I heard coming out of Indianapolis there, just on some of those guys too, and also after the drills have been done, and you're going to hear a lot of names on a lot of different guys probably up their stock and also lowered their stock too. But you can definitely look for that on Monday morning for sure. So yeah, just look for that at NY Daily News and just follow me, if you want to, at Antoine Staley.
Yeah, guys, I will say this, and I mean this wholeheartedly. The beat writer sometimes, take some strays that they don't need to. Antoine, hands down, is the best of the beat, in what he produces, the content that he puts out, the communication. So if you're not following him on Twitter, you can always ask Antoine a question, and I guarantee you're going to get an answer. Like he's real.
Unless it's a dumb question, and I'm not going to answer it. Yeah, I just don't say anything. Or I might jokingly ridicule you a little bit, maybe with a GIF or something like that, but it's nothing malicious. But thank you, I appreciate that.
No, the hands down the best of the beat that we got, and we got some good ones, and we got some good ones and some Saminis. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke.
Yeah. We got my boy Connor Hughes. That's my buddy. But yeah. And so, show him some love, give him a follow out there on, like you said, X, Twitter. I don't even know what the hell to call it. I'm still stuck on Twitter. I can't help it.
Well,
But
I don't know what the hell the golf is called anymore. So I mean, hey,
right.
that's a whole other story. Like I'm not even
Yeah.
gonna get into that, but yeah,
Yeah.
but I still call it Twitter. So
Yeah. But listen, man, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Enjoy the rest of your night. Glad you made it back safe from traveling. And we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
oh yeah, for sure. Like, y'all take it easy. Thank you.
Later, Antoine.
All right, there he goes. Antwan Staley, New York Daily News, Jets beat writer. I want to remind you guys about the amazing offer from the one and only BetUS. This will be the final time that I say this on the Thursday thick of it this year. A 150% bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000, everybody. They are America's favorite sports book for good reason. All you have to do to get that amazing offer is use the promo code YouTube150. That gets you that, and then a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. I want to officially thank the great BetUS for hanging out with us through what I feel is the most painful Jet season of all the painful Jet seasons that we've endured. This one stole my soul. Unlike any other season was able to do, this one took it out of me, and BetUS hung out, stayed strong with us through the whole thing. So thank you to BetUS. Go on over there and take advantage of this great offer before it is gone, everybody. Gunny, that was a fun time. That was pretty good having Antwan on here.
Awesome.
What'd you think?
I love it, man. I love it. I had Antwan on my show a few months back, man, and the guy is he's just very, very articulate, man. He talks like a football fan. You know, you ever talk to some like writers and whatnot, like you can tell like they're trying to be politically correct, and no, he talks like a football fan first, right? And I love that. You can actually have a conversation with him. He's very, very genuine. So I thought it was awesome having him on tonight, man. Great get, Dom. Great get.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, we want to thank Dom C. Dom C actually reached out and put that together. So that was a good time. What do we know? I thought, you know what, Dom, you had question number 5. I was waiting for your question number 5 to pop up there, which was gun to your head.
That was the last one I was going to ask him. Gun to your head. I was going to say, who's our quarterback next year and who's the pick at 7. So
I was waiting for it.
Since Antoine's not here, I'll ask you guys. Gun to your head. Who's quarterback and who's the pick at 7?
Gun to my head, the
right now we're on February 27th. Obviously, we don't.
The starting quarterback for the New York Jets is Tyrod Taylor, and the number 7 pick is going to be Ted McMillan.
Ooh,
GreenBean.
Yeah, I like it. I know it's funny. I heard somebody say it yesterday too. They thought Tet was a little bit overrated because it's a little bit thinner of a class this year, at least on the top end, for sure. Than than recent years. It seemed like it was just an endless stream of top tier wide receivers coming out in the draft. But I'm with you. I like him. I think he's very, very strong prospect. So if I gun to my head, I will say the starting quarterback of the New York Jets will be Justin Fields, and the number 7 overall pick will be Tyler Warren. That's who we're going to end up taking. And then B, I honestly believe that, this is assuming Carter and Johnson and Hunter, they're all gone, right? One of those guys slips, different story. But I think Tyler Warren, but I'm not going to be surprised if they pull the trigger on a middle linebacker. I'm telling you, I think Jihad Campbell, I think it's real. Like, we have a strong defensive staff in here. You know what I mean? CJ Mosley's old. We're going to lose Sherwood. And they're like that, they come from that like Aaron Glenn, I'll say specifically, but he comes from that kind of mindset, that tone setting. They did it in Detroit with Jack Campbell. I think it's a realistic scenario that could take place. And it would tickle me because it taps into my old caveman, my old Jets fan. But I would also love to see so many Jets fans just lose their fucking marbles, taking a linebacker at 7, Dom.
Well, I do got good news for you, Bean. I just did get a text and have updated the spreadsheet. Danny Stutzman, the middle linebacker from Oklahoma, had a formal tonight with the Jets.
There you go.
So interesting, spicy.
That's a spicy meatball, everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good times. I hope you guys are getting excited, watching some of the drills. I can't wait to sit down and just kind of, binge watch the defensive tackles getting started. Because I wasn't able to watch any of that yet. So, like was said, it's like, look, last year in the draft, we took an offensive tackle with the first pick, and look, we get Bowers and the whole thing, great and all that. But it's really a smart idea to utilize the strength of the draft and like take out of that crop. We got our left tackle and arguably the strongest tackle class in decades, right? Yeah. Now this year it just so happens that we need a good defensive tackle, and here we are. We're looking at one of the deepest defensive lineman drafts in a long time. This is what it could be falling in our favor. And I like that. I like when that happens. Not that I want to see one taken at 7. I think that's just, I don't want it, but I'm excited about the idea of getting one in the, even day 2, I would be okay. But day 3, seeing what we can put together for the defensive line. I'm excited, man. This is good stuff. Watch that combine, everybody. It's going to be a good time. Let's go around the panel real quick. Gunny, what do you got coming up that you need everybody to know, my friend?
Yeah, listen, I'm planning on doing a mock draft next week. I'm supposed to be going to Jersey, so I'm not sure if it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday when I go there. So next week when I'm on camera, it might look different. No, it will look different because I will not be here. I won't be home in Texas. But yeah, so I got a mock draft coming next week. Me and Tigo are going to go ahead and kind of break down the first round, see how that pans out. And yeah, just check us out on the Hangout on Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock Central. Yeah, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And let's go ahead and see how the Jets go ahead and pan out, fantasy world in terms of the first round.
All right, Dom, what do you got coming up, bud?
Oh man, I got a bunch. Tomorrow night, I'm gonna be on with Dano in the Danger Zone.
Nice.
I'll be there.
Dano.
Yeah, Dano's the man. So I'll be there at 9:30 tomorrow, chilling out with him. I'm sure we'll be talking all things Jets, all things draft. Saturday I will be on with Buffalo Jetsfan, going over the combine and things that are like the guys who made some money, the guys who probably lost some money, and where they fit in for the Jets. And Sunday I'll be with the one and the only Jeremy Jets Chaos on his channel, 9 p.m., breaking down positional groups. Last week we started going over the cornerbacks. I don't know which group we've decided on doing yet, but yeah, we're going to do that from now until the draft every Sunday night, going over, breaking down the top 10 in the position by position. So I'm busy.
That sounds like a good time. Our boy Jeremy Jets Chaos, Brooklyn Brothers Food Review, 49ers Chaos, whatever the hell he wants to be called these days. Gotta love some Jeremy action. I miss him. We spent every Sunday of the season together, as you guys know. So that'll be fun. Guys, we have the Monday night extravaganza. We start at 8 o'clock over on Jets Talk 24/7 with Ryan and Tigo getting the mock draft started. We lock step with the same exact theme. So Ryan and Tigo get it started. Then Ryan jumps over to Talking Jets, and Dom C joins them. And then Dom, from 9 to 10. And then at 10 o'clock, Dom hops over here, and we do the 10 o'clock mock where you control the picks, the trades, and everything like that. So that here starts at 10 p.m. So 8 p.m. on Jets Talk 24/7, 9 p.m. on Talking Jets, and 10 o'clock right here on GreenBean Jets Fan. It is a blast, and I am getting more and more excited every single day that we get closer to the draft. So I hope you guys will join us. With that said, I want to thank BetUS one final time for hanging out with us. Don't forget about that great offer, everybody, using the promo code YouTube150. With that all said, my good friends, we're going to end this stream by playing the outro. I will see you on Monday. We'll see you. We'll all see you whenever the hell they said it. I forget it already. Have a great night, everybody. See you next time.
Yeah, here we come, baby. Here we come. Here come the Jets, man.
I want to kiss you. Thanks, Joe.
You want to run or you want to duck down? You want to duck, just go over and get onto the bench and stay there.
You play to win the game.
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets, Jets.